Welcome to the Vets Connection podcast with your host, Scott McLean.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott McLean. My guest today is Steve Campana. Steve is the first responder liaison for Hanley Foundation's Patriot program. How you doing, Steve?
I am doing very well today. Thanks, Scott.
Excellent. Welcome to the studio kitchen.
Oh, I love the studio kitchen. So for those of you that don't know Scott or have never listened to this podcast or probably never heard his voice before, there's a 10-foot tall Hulk in the living room, and I'm amazed with it.
Yeah, I have an amazing wife that lets me do that. Well,
good answer,
she likes it as well as I do. So
good answer.
It's part of the family now. It's part of the family.
Awesome.
So, Steve, tell the listeners about your career as a first responder, what you did, and what kind of got you into working with Hanley Foundation.
Yeah, so at a very young age, I moved to South Florida. My parents moved down here in 1980. I was 12 years old. Put two and two together. I'm 56. And they were just looking for an outlet for me to really connect and have something to do. I went to a school where drugs were pretty prevalent, and I was exposed to all that, unbeknownst to them at the time. They never knew. But I got involved with a police cadet program. It used to be a branch of the Boy Scouts back in the day. Great organization, structure, fun stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And it was from there that I fell in love with firefighting. So I may be doing a ride-along with a police officer, but he's also a firefighter EMT. And I kind of gravitated to a sergeant who was a firefighter, a paramedic, and an LEO. And I really enjoyed his company. And that led me to becoming a volunteer firefighter. Back then, you could be 16. I was a volunteer firefighter for Juno Beach Fire Rescue, which doesn't exist anymore. They consolidated into Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, became a volunteer for them. And after high school, I knew what I wanted to do. I went to a college preparatory high school. Everybody was going to Ivy League colleges and big name state colleges, and I was going to North Tech Vocational School to get into EMT school. So people looked at me sideways. I went to EMT school. I started working on ambulances, private ambulances. Palm Beach County had what was called a two-tier system when it came to EMS. The fire department had the medics. So when a 911 call dropped, they drove in a squad to a call. The ambulance showed up, and we put the patient and our equipment in. And I was in the ambulance, and I'd take the guys to the hospital. And I really loved it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be on the fire department side of it. I got hired by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue in 1991. I had a phenomenal 32-year career. I got to be a dispatcher with them for a little bit of time, and that was prior to getting hired in 91. I get to work at the lower socioeconomical areas of Palm Beach County. I worked in the West Palm area, downtown Lake Worth. I worked out in Belglade for 5 years. It was interesting out there, different world. Also, I got a chance to work in the training safety division for 5 years. I worked on the helicopter Trauma Hawk for 5 years. I was a SWAT medic with the sheriff's office for 5 years. By the way, the FBI calls that a pattern, I think. So I got to do a lot of really cool things, and I battled with alcohol and drug use the entire time I was on the job. While I was at headquarters in the Training and Safety Division working for an amazing person by the name of Chief Vicki Shepard, she got me out of my comfort zone, out of my box, and got me to test up to my dream job. And that was being an EMS captain. And that's what I retired out as April 29th, 2021.
So along the way, there were some, I'm sure, incidents, some things you came upon that really didn't sit well, but being what you did, no time to process it, next call. We were just talking about that before we came on. So tell us how that really flooded your life and where it led you.
So I think for me, it was twofold. Part of it was ego, and part of it was the inability to be able to process what I was doing and what I was going through. As a young man, I mean, here I am, 22 years old, and holding dead babies and body parts. You know, part of it was I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, because what's going to hurt me? You know, I just crawled under a car yesterday that was on its, upside down while they were cutting people out. And I said this on an interview not too long ago. I'm going into houses on fire. We're doing stuff that people just don't do. And if I can do that stuff, well, you know what? When I'm off work, I can do what I want to do. Also, you and I were talking. I was a black cloud. I had 3 double pediatric calls in my career where I had 2 pediatric patients to deal with when I first got there. One of them, both were in cardiac arrest, burned. Another 2 were severely burned. And another call happened on Thanksgiving Day, and they were drowned. So that stuff's not easy to process. It really isn't. So what do you lean on? You lean on what makes you numb, and that's what I did. First, it was the drink. I leaned on that really, really hard. And there's like a level of vibrato in our society, right?
Yes, yes.
Did you see the way he drank last night? Holy crap, that guy is just like, he's a stud.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a level of vibrato with that. There's a level of machismo, if I'm not using the right word. And, that led to other things. If I want to drink more, I might do another substance that might help me drink more and help me stay up longer. And, that makes me numb in a different way.
So what did you do to help yourself?
So this time around was different.
So this went on for...
a career.
A career of how long? Give us
32 years.
32 years of...
Oh, yeah. There was
drinking and drugging and hiding it. And
oh, yeah. So about 18 years ago, I got sober in a firehouse. I was doing a lot of cocaine. I was drinking a lot. And my ex-wife, my wife at the time, just couldn't figure out where all the money was going. And she figured it out. And I just got sober. I got sober in the rooms of recovery. And fessed up with my guys, and it was like the 3rd day without drugs or alcohol when I told them, and I literally detoxed in a fire station. And those guys brought me through, and I used a program of recovery to lean on for about a decade. And there's a portion of a book that I read, the second most popular book in the world, that says right in there what I didn't do. I didn't humble myself enough. I still carried a tremendous ego, even with a program of recovery. So, that led to my demise. And I found myself after 10 years of being sober drinking again because I got this. And I got this. At that time, my marriage was falling apart. Separated from my ex-wife and left to my own devices, man, I was out. I was off to the races. And a lot of people around me knew it. They knew what was going on. I was vocal about drinking. I was like, I'm doing good. About 18 months later, I'm at a bottle a day when I'm off and probably an 8-ball a day when I'm off. And everybody tried to help me. My family, my close friends, old sponsors. And even my crew. My crew knew what was going on. They tried to help me. So they didn't know what to do. So I walked into work one day, and they're like, we don't know what else to do with you. So we think you're using drugs. So let's piss in a cup and see where it goes. And I looked them in the eye, and I'm like, it's not going to work. I'm dirty. So I called we had a liaison at the time for the union. And he's like, Steve, man, don't worry about it. You're going to come off the trucks. You're going to do IOP for a couple of months. 3-4 months, you'll be back on the truck. Let's get you right. I'm like, okay. So what does a good addict do? I got to be at IOP at 6 o'clock. I got till 5:30.
Yep.
So 2 8-balls and 2 bottles of Jack later, I went to the place I was supposed to go to IOP, and that's the Hanley Center. And drove into that place sideways and on fire. The admissions specialist at the time, great girl, her name is Megan. And she looked me dead in the eye, and she's like, we recommend you come in for a 28-day stay. And I'm like, yeah, no, not happening. And a lot of vulgarities thrown around everywhere. And I was like, get my rep on the phone. And he was like, hey, man, I don't know what to tell you. If they're saying you got to go in for 28 days, you want a job, I would stay. Click. And there I was at the Hanley Center, August 14th, 2017.
28 days later.
28 days later, on September 11th, full days to get out as a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
The day after a hurricane, Hurricane Irma, first hurricane I spent not in a fire station in my life. I went back to the rooms of recovery. I started intensive outpatient therapy. I was introduced to a trauma therapist, which was an integral part of my healing. Something we didn't talk about while I was in that 28-day stay. While I was in detox, I had what I just thought was one of my normal nightmares. I had a reel playing in my head of a lot of calls that I had been through. My roommate went and got the nurses because I was making this noise, which was me screaming, "Wake me up!"
Yeah.
And they put me in the psychiatrist's chair. Pissed on myself, sweating through all my clothes. They wrapped me in towels. They burritoed me. Same thing I did to addicts and alcoholics out in the field. They put me in the doctor's office, and this amazing man diagnosed me. It's like, "Steve, I could have stopped talking to you 10 minutes ago." He's like, you suffer from PTSD. And I'm like, sitting in a chair, and it's like, okay, I know I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I've been down that road, and I know how to fix that. Now I'm broke some other way. What does this mean? Where am I going? What am I doing? And how do I get better from that? And I got like 4 years before I had a flashback. I got like 4 years before the insomnia came back. And they were like, "You got 4 years?"
Yeah.
Like, "I got 4 weeks." And I'm like, "Yeah, if I get a good night's sleep a couple times a month." And I was like, I guess we all walk this path differently.
Yeah.
But a trauma therapist was introduced to me when I got out of the Hanley Center. And a lot of therapy, man.
Yeah.
A lot of therapy. A lot of recovery. Got me to a good place.
So where does your position now with Hanley, where does that come into play in your life?
So when I got out of the Hanley Center, I found myself single.
What year was this again?
This is in 2017.
Okay.
So I was separated from my ex. At the time was my wife. My kids were in school, had moved away. The Hanley Center really embraces their alumni. They have a whole team that works with alumni. So it's just not like you walk out the door and have a nice day. There's alumni functions, alumni meetings, and I was deeply involved in all of that.
Good.
Plus, as a single guy, it was a hot meal I didn't have to cook every now and again. And I was on campus 3 days a week. Then 2020 came and changed the world. And I wasn't volunteering there anymore. By the time that I had retired, they really still weren't involving the alumni on campus like they had prior to that change in 2020. So I'll tell you a funny story. I made this deal with God in February of 2020. It's a great deal. Divorce was over, house was sold, crazy girlfriend. I'm not dating her anymore. God blessed me with this amazing RV. I'm sitting under the stars, just ate a steak, smoking a cigar. And I'm like, I'm feeling this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And I said, "You know what, God, I got a deal. I'm going to stay single for my last 14 months on the job. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to keep doing all the things that I'm doing, putting the right in front of the left and moving forward. I'm going to try to help other people. And when I retire, I'm going to travel these 50 states, and I'm going to go to a meeting in every state. And I'm going to practice yoga in every state. I'm big into yoga." And that was my deal, man. And I got to do that for 3 months before, because there's an old saying, right? Man plans, God laughs. And 3 months later, he put my queen into my life. Just like, literally, just like right in front of me, here you go. This is the person that I created that has been waiting for you. Yeah. Gets me.
Yeah.
Just gets me.
Yeah.
There's just no other way to describe the relationship. Just gets me. And I'm like, really? 3 months? I didn't even get three months. And it's been an amazing journey. So when I retired from the fire department, I asked her to retire with me. She's a medic from New York City. She was there for 9/11. She came down to Florida about 7 years ago. She had different jobs. She was a flight medic. She worked in hospitals, and she's also a school teacher out in the Glades. And I was working an overtime shift out in the Glades. I didn't even want to be at it. I wanted to work a 48 at my house, and it just didn't work out that way. And I met her. 3 days later, we were on a date. 3 months later, she asked me to meet. She asked me to move in with her. Well, what's up with that? And then a year later, we were married. So when I retired, she's like, "Hey, listen, I'll retire with you. But I've had this lifelong dream of wanting to be a nurse. I want to go to nursing school. Who am I to stand in your way, for a dream? We got the means. Let's do this." So we traveled for 18 months and got bored, believe it or not. And I love seeing new places. I love going new places. Don't get me wrong, but it was like, there's got to be something more. She went to school and I'm sitting at home. I had my routines down, but there had to be something more. So I went back to work at the Hanley Center. I worked there as a recovery advocate on the very unit that I stayed on. So my street cred in the detox world, in the recovery world, was pretty high because when they're screaming at you, you don't know what we're going through. I'm like, really, 101 bed D, and they just look at you like, what? I'm like, yeah, I was in 101 bed D, but in detox I was in 102 bed A, and they're like, oh. Long series of events. The Hanley Center was reacquired by the Hanley Foundation, and I heard this rumor that they were going to start a first responder program and veterans program. So I even did some stupid stuff to try to align myself up with administration to get over into that building and get closer to it, just to keep my ear to the, I want to put my ear to the ground. I want to be close to that. And the CEO got word of it. And she saw me in the cafeteria one day, and she looked at me and she goes, "Are you serious? You put in for that job to be closer to the," she goes, "Steve, you are the program, you just don't know it." She goes, "You have a seat. You have the head seat at the table." And they asked me to be their first responder liaison for the Patriots program. And the Patriots program is, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It's just one of those things.
And what does the Patriots program offer?
So the Patriots program is going to be a substance use disorder program focusing on trauma, because we know that first responders, cops, firemen, paramedics, dispatchers, even maybe nurses.
Oh, nurses.
Emergency room nurses specifically. We know that they suffer a different type of trauma than civilians do, for lack of a better term, right? No one on a normal day walks up to a front door and the door opens and there's bodies laying on the ground. Somebody hands you a baby that's not breathing. That's not ordinary trauma. So our CEO is very forward-thinking. She's got a couple of different treatment tracks coming out, and one of them is for first responders. So it's going to be a substance use disorder program that's going to focus on trauma-based therapy as well, but it's going to be a program that's for our people, by our people. And that's what I'm hearing from everybody that I'm talking to out in the first responder and veteran world. How can I sit at a table and talk to a therapist and tell her about what just happened yesterday or last month, last year, last decade, because I'm still carrying that baggage. And as I'm telling this story, the therapist is crying in front of me. So that was very important to us. And our CEO and our program, our director of programs that's putting this program together for us are in the same boat. So even if our clinicians aren't 100% a first responder, they're going to be embedded. And what does embedded mean? It means all the programs that are out there for therapists to go to learn our culture, that they're culturally diverse for first responders and vets. And there are some great programs out there. This is just in the meantime. But the program director has to have the word former before their name. And then once this program moves into its own facility, which it will in the next 3 years, it's called the Patriots Village. The rendering is just everything I could ask for. That's going to be a program for vets and first responders by vets and first responders. It's going to be its own autonomous little dichotomy, microcosm within the Hanley culture. And yeah, it's an exciting time right now, because part of my job is breaking down those barriers of getting guys and girls into treatment. That's my focus. Because if you, Scott, today tell me I want to go to treatment, and I say, you know what, we got to get some stuff done in the next 3 or 4 days. So, you know what, let's revisit this in 4 days. What's going to happen in 4 days? You're never going to call me, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
So, I tell this to them, and they look at me with their heads cocked sideways. I'm like, they call by 8 in the morning. They're in detox by 10 or 11. And that's the whole process. And the process of admissions is not like, I want to go to treatment. Okay, show up. Here you go. It's not like that. You got to deal with medical records, insurances, all kinds of different stuff. And we're trying to get all those barriers broken down. They have the people to do that.
Yeah.
They listen to my vision and my dream. And Hanley's a cool place, man. It happens. They have people that do that. So there's a team that's working with insurance, working with TRICARE, right? We should be accepting TRICARE very, very soon. We're way deep into that process. Soon we'll be a contract server for TRICARE. So for vets that go to the West Palm VA or any VA, that literally will be a phone call.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a guy. Great. They call the Patriot hotline, and a few questions are asked, some T's are crossed, some I's are dotted, and they're in treatment. And that's my goal.
And it's a 501 designation?
Yeah, so the Hanley Foundation recently acquired the Hanley Center. The Hanley Center originated by a wonderful lady, Mrs. Hanley, in 1984. And it was in conjunction with Hazleton, who had a great name in the recovery world at the time. And it was a not-for-profit foundation. It sold a few times over the last 30 years, and is now back in the hands of the Hanley Foundation, who's always been in the background with scholarships, but got big into the prevention world. So now we are back to being a 501c3, which opens us up to the ability to generate funds, as well as, it's just a little bit more reputable when you're a .org. This really wise woman named Joan S. says, you just seem a lot more legit when you go from .com to .org. And it's true. It's true. It is true. So we are a not-for-profit. So we have the ability to generate funds for scholarships, which is really great, because right now we're trying not to turn away any first responder or veteran.
It's unfortunate. There are a lot of good for-profit rehabilitation centers that get stuck with that stigma of it's all about the money and it's all about this. And you're right. There seems to be a little bit of a difference in how it's viewed.
And you're absolutely right. And there are those great organizations, even locally, that are out there that are run by vets, that are run by first responders, that are doing the deal.
Yes.
And they're doing it the right way. Don't get me wrong, and I didn't want to, but there are also agencies out there that are not so much.
How long is it going to take for this program to get up and running?
So the Hanley Foundation has been treating vets and first responders for 40 years. So right now, a first responder shows up at their door. They call the Hanley hotline, the American Patriots hotline.
What's the number?
844-8-HANLEY.
844-8-HANLEY. Hanley. Yeah,
and if you're looking for the numbers, it's 844-842-6539. I just remember it as 844-8-HANLEY. That's going to get you directly to an admission specialist 24/7, 365. The program and its own separate treatment track should be up and running soon. We're in the final stages of onboarding some people into the program to get it up and running. And it's going to be run out of the existing buildings that we have now, even though it'll be a separate treatment track. Buildings will be bifurcated, so they'll kind of have very limited contact with, the men will have limited contact with the men, the women will have limited contact with the women in the women's building.
Right.
I'm hoping in 3 years the Patriots Village is at the very least being built, if not finished being built. And we're in a tremendous capital campaign right now for that. So if you got a couple $1 million laying around and you want to donate to a 501.
There you go.
Yeah, so we can start construction right away.
Absolutely. I always encourage the listeners or anyone that might know, most of these organizations that come on the podcast, I say it and I'll say it for you. Give them money.
Yeah, it's like I said.
Give them money.
It is a 501c. It is a tax-deductible donation. But yeah, so, they're, like I said, our CEO is a visionary. She's got a plan to raise these funds over the next couple of years. The Hanley Center sits on 14 acres of property. Only about 8 of it is developed. Through rearranging buildings, leveling some buildings, reutilizing some buildings, and then new construction, every square inch of that property is going to be built upon. There's going to be a program for pregnant women and substance use disorder. There's going to be a family building for the family education program that we have. Every square inch of that place is going to be utilized.
Sounds like a beautiful thing, my friend.
It is. It is.
Can't wait. You offered me a tour.
Absolutely.
Of the existing program right now.
Absolutely.
And I would love to do that. That would be great. We'll set that up afterwards, after this podcast. Okay, so if somebody wants to reach out to you or Hanley Foundation, or I know you just gave a phone number. Is there a website? Is there any for a first responder or a veteran, or is it just what?
Yeah, so there's if they go to the Hanley website, it's hanley.org. They definitely have a brief synopsis of the Patriot program that's out there. If there's somebody that wants to talk to me, I absolutely have no problems about putting my cell phone number out there for a brother or sister that's suffering. My phone number is 561-767-0618. Give me a call, and I'll be happy to talk to you about the program, what it has to offer for you or your family. because it was like we were talking about earlier. I'm really there to be there to just help one person.
Yeah.
You know, and do you and I want to help the masses? Do we want to help 1,000 people? Do we want to help 100? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I can't get caught up in that. I am humbled in just helping one person today, tomorrow, next week. You know, I'm working in an amazing environment. That admission specialist I talked about cursing out as my current boss.
Wait. So the day you came in sideways and on fire and you were screaming at the intake person, that person is now your boss.
Yeah.
See how things happen, my friend.
So I work for this amazing...
she's going to be listening, so pump it up. Buddy.
Yeah. I work for this, and I say this in front of everybody. I work for the admissions vice president, and we call her MVP, Madam Vice President, Megan B. And she's a very dynamic individual. High energy, like doesn't drink energy drinks or coffee, but like you would think,
just naturally,
just
go get
all
her.
the time. She is, and she's a very good manager of people. And I to this day, when I send her an email, I laugh every time I hit send. I look at the name and I just laugh. So yeah, you know, they give me the ability. I work in a really great environment to be able to come out and do these things and get the word out there.
Outreach is important. I've learned that with Herd Foundation. Outreach is important, and it's important to have the people that have experienced it.
Yeah.
Practice what we preach. We've already practiced.
Yeah.
Time to preach.
Yeah. Very good. I like the way you said that. And you know what? When I went out there and I practiced it for a few more years, I still didn't get good at it.
Well, you're doing good now, my friend. This is a great interview. And you know what? I don't ever kind of promote this. I don't promote this. I don't ask for it. But the people that come on this podcast, I'm always amazed. And it's a beautiful thing when they just say, call me, and they put their phone number out there. I don't prompt that. These people that come on this podcast love what they do so much, they're willing to give their personal phone number, which, you know, in this world, that's taking a chance. But I love the fact that they do that. That shows another level of dedication to what you're doing, how much you want to help, and who you want to help. So I appreciate that, my friend.
The bottom line, I think, comes down to is you and I can't speak for you personally, but I think we got into the world that we got into for the same reason. We want to help people.
Yeah, man.
And just because I'm not in that world anymore doesn't mean I still don't want to help people. And the last person I want to see is somebody suffering exactly from what I suffered from, who got there exactly how I got there, knowing that there is a solution. And not being someone to help them find their way with that. Because I can't get them sober. Right? You and I both know that. Right. I can't get them sober. A facility can't keep them sober. Right? We got to lead them to a program so that they get to have this beautiful experience in their life to bring them to their clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Steve, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's a great interview. They're all great interviews. I love that everybody brings something different to the table here. Your story is inspirational. And I was just touching on what you just said. You waited a long time. I waited a long time. And part of our goal, now I think I can speak for you, is to help these people not have to wait a long time. Like, don't take 22 years like I took, or however many years you took. That's part of our goal when we do this outreach. When we talk to people, we talk to groups, we talk to organizations, we want to get them early, you know. And if there is somebody that's been out there hanging hard for 20 years, they know that people like us did it, so they can do it.
Absolutely.
You know. So once again, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. He gave the phone numbers. Is there an email address? Did you give an email?
Sure. Campana, SCAMPANA, at HanleyCenter.org.
There you go. Well, we built another bridge today. This was a good bridge. They're all good bridges, and that's the goal, is to get these bridges to eventually all connect to each other. And if you like what you heard, share it. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you're listening on a podcast platform, Give us a review, share it, let people know about it. I appreciate it. And if you want to email the podcast, you can email me at vetsconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to see the website, www.vetsconnectpodcast.com. So with that, as I always say, you will hear me next Monday.
The Vets Connection podcast is produced by Scott McLean at the KOFB studio in Boca Raton, Florida. If you would like to connect with us, visit our website at www.vetsconnectpodcast.com. If you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can email us at vetsconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs immediate help, call 911 Emergency Services or go to the nearest emergency room. Or call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Also, if you are in need of essential community services, call 211. 211 is a free and confidential service that helps people find resources for food, housing, employment, healthcare, mental health and substance abuse resources, legal assistance, counseling, youth programs, household items, and much more.